Boy, everyone is fascinated by Casey. There's something we just can't, as I sit here and sort of interview my guests and look at tape and share with all of you here, we're just trying to figure her out. She's hard to read. I mean, it looks like she's been coached repeatedly to kind of stay blank as she sits there in court. Though, we see her laugh, we see her kind of cry. I don't know. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This whole experience is kind of like a car crash where you can't look away. And tonight we're still trying to figure everything out. Joining me is body language expert Patti Wood, and still with me, we welcome back Robin Sachs, former prosecutor. Patti, why do you think Casey Anthony is so mysterious to many?
I think it's because we typically look at behavior and see what would be normal in these circumstances, and we see her behavior as so far from normal as someone who's lost their child. So when we see a lack of facial expression or tears, not when they're talking about what happened to her daughter, but when they're talking about what might happen to her as a result of this trial, we're baffled. We can't understand it, and we judge it.
It's funny. I have a kind of a weird, I have denial. I don't want to believe that it's what I think I'm looking at. It won't get through to me. It's like, well, there must be a better explanation than psychopathy. It's a hard thing for me to get my head around. All right, but let's look at Casey watching her mother testify about the baby doll. Watch her eyes in this tape.
Kaylee's baby doll, her favorite doll. Her favorite doll was in the car seat. Like it was sitting where Kaylee would have sat. Then I noticed Kaylee's backpack in the trunk of the car.
All right, Patti, you're a body language expert. Interpret what we just saw.
Well, here you see a slight bit of sadness, but I'm very familiar with this piece of tape because throughout her mother's testimony, quite often there was a look of contempt on Casey's face. The brows would be down focused, the forehead pooched over, the mouth pinched up in distaste. Here we see just a slight hint of sadness for the very first time during her mother's testimony.
Robin, you disagree with that?
Yeah, I don't think I see much sadness. I think that we are seeing someone who is painfully trying to show sadness, but is actually looking like she could care less and that she's bothered. It doesn't seem like there's enough emotion.
But here's the craziness about this case, guys, is that what I see dissociation. I see that she's probably, I literally wouldn't be surprised if she were to tell me, during that testimony, I was out of body floating over my head. I didn't know where I was.
I absolutely
Patti,
agree.
No?
Yes, well, her personality changes so radically within even the same person on the stand's testimony. Her personality changes from contempt to anger to absolutely stone-faced blank, and that is, to me, is a signal non-verbally of her ability to disassociate.
Okay, so dissociation, though, would go to the defense's theory of her being a trauma survivor, having been victimized in some way. Are they going to use that, do you think? Or, Robin, would they even use how she behaves in court as something to buttress their defense?
I think it's a very scary territory to start going in and looking at how she is behaving in court, because otherwise they're going to have to explain so many different emotions and lack of emotion.
All right, but the point here, so all of us, three different opinions. We each kind of had three different takes on who we were seeing here. And my thing is that even if it's all coached as artificial, I don't think I could have been this good at it. Do you, Robin? You think of it? Patti, could you have been this blank?
I know you could have been that good.
No, I couldn't have. I couldn't. I would have been so overwhelmed with that. Well, maybe I would have dissociated. I would have been like her, just checked out. Patti?
There's this other aspect that I call the timing of the tears. Again, our expectation is a mother, when she hears about what happened to her daughter, would cry. In this case, Casey cries when they talk about things that might happen to her or when her behavior is called into question.
Exactly.
And
yeah, to me, by the way, that is the most damning of all the observations.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
that is, it turns out if somebody is a psychopath or a sociopath, and that is when they have feelings, which is when their reality crushes in on them, and what the coming to terms with it is ahead. They see what's ahead and they get upset.
Well, and the corollary, let's not forget those pictures of her partying in the bar. Let's not forget those pictures during the middle of the time Casey's missing. Compare those pictures during that time to what you're seeing there, and it doesn't seem plausible that she had nothing to do with Casey's murder.
All right, listen to this. We're going to listen to Casey as she hears her mom's call to 911. Pay attention to the voice. Here we go.
My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days. You know who has her? sister. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today.
What vehicle was stolen?
It's a 90 Pontiac Sunfire.
And that's Casey's voice there. I think it was the same call where Cindy called and was so hysterical. I mean, as anybody would be. Now, Patti, you said in Casey's case, you've heard more vocal emphasis on the phone with cops.
Yeah.
Maybe, describing a missing
Yes.
car or something than her daughter's disappearing.
And I've listened to a lot of 911 tapes and as in terms of looking at what ends up happening in a trial. And in this case, her voice has very little variation, very little tension. And then there's a big vocal emphasis later on in that call when she talks about her car being gone. That's when we hear emotion. That's when we hear her being upset, when she talks about the car, not about her child.
Oh my God! See, this stuff,
That's chilling.
It's chilling, and that's the stuff that when any of us watching or hearing, we were talking to her defense attorney earlier, and the mob mentality, and she's being condemned in the public court of opinion. But when you hear stuff like that, my insides turn. I want to vomit. I get disgusted. I get a chill feeling. Now that is in contradistinction to when I watch Cindy, for instance. Now Cindy, I have a completely different reaction. That's Casey's mom. Watch Cindy. We see her in court today. Now, Patti, as you watch this, what is your reaction? What is your read on Cindy?
I haven't seen this little bit of testimony. When I watched her in court when she was under oath about the 911 call, what I saw was absolute, what I call inintegrity. In other words, her voice, her body language, and what she was saying were all a match, all in alignment, all in synchrony that speaks to the person being honest and really revealing the truth. Here,
And I would say she was shattered too, wouldn't you?
Absolutely
just
shattered.
Emotionally shattered. Yeah, shattered.
And which made
here?
and watching Casey watch her mom being shattered and showing contempt on her face at her mother being shattered was so disturbing. Absolutely disturbing.
And you can't say that she never learned how to have emotion in the home when your own mother is right up there crying and showing emotion.
Literally, I've asked this a couple times in the show whether Casey had a head injury history or something. Something that would explain it completely out of context of her family system, even though there's issues of dysfunction and whatnot there. We don't know. We really don't know. But maybe she had a head injury. There's a part of her brain where that stuff works isn't operating.
There's
right now.
definitely some sort of injury in her head. I would agree.
Whether it was victimization or whether it was a genuine, actual mechanical head injury, it seems like something. I mean, just the parenting, the lying. And Cindy, thank you so much. All we've seen, Patti, for all we've seen here today. It's very, very interesting. It's this isn't stuff admissible in the court of law, but it's easy to sit here and condemn her when we have that kind of a conversation. It is.
And it is something that the jury is thinking about. They are human beings. They are judgmental human beings, and they are making credibility calls on their body language, how they testify. So it's very important to the trial.
There you go. Next, would you stay up all night to get a place in line? Thank you, by the way, Robin, and thank you, of course, to Patti. Would you stay